Hey there, this is Michael with Buffalo Finances, and I just want to share a quick thought with you that when you're trying to accomplish anything, you need to plan out all the elements that it takes. Because any action will take four things. It's going to take a person to do the work. It's going to take a tool for the person to use. It's going to take some types of materials to work with, and it's going to take a location. You have to have all four of those things for anything to happen. When you're dealing with stuff that you use your hands for, like working on vehicles, manufacturing, something like that, it's a little more obvious. Like you definitely need a space to work on something. You definitely need a person to be in that space. You definitely need materials for them to handle, and you definitely need a tool so they can put things together. And you might need multiple of the tools and the materials, which makes it even more complicated. So the more of those things you need, the more complicated the process, the harder it is to do. The harder it is to do, the better it is for the doer that can figure it out. Because if you can figure it out, that means that you have done something that has a high barrier to entry that other people are going to struggle with. You would think that people that do things that require all four of those on a regular basis would create a lot of value. But I grew up on a farm and I found that it's really hard to do all four of those things, especially because you typically will have a different tool for many, many different jobs, different materials, even if you're the same property. But just farming land or working with animals like cows or goats or sheep or something like that, there's so many tools that you need to do the work. And the product that you create is not that valuable, unfortunately, because there's so many people that can create that same product. If I think about corn, and I'm trying to produce corn, there are so many people doing that. There are so many people creating corn that the value just gets squished down. Even if you do it really well, you have to create massive amounts of corn to make a profit. If I switch to something that is not that abundant, where the supply and demand is in my favor, where there's a lot of demand and a low supply, then I'm going to win and I can solve all four of those problems with a really favorable supply demand curve. I'm going to do great. So, what's a complicated problem what's a painful problem that's hard to solve that no one else is solving? You could probably take away the hard to solve because if it was easy to solve and it's painful, it's probably solved already. All right. Now, if you switch to virtual, which is a lot of the economy is virtual nowadays, you still need all four of those elements I mentioned. You still need a person to do the work. You still need a tool. It's going to be a computer. You still need a place. It's just going to have to be an online place, which is way more complicated than you think it is. And then you need some material, raw material, and that's typically going to be client data. So one thing I struggle with in the accounting world is I have to take bank statements, which are my raw materials, and I have to turn them into financial statements. And there's a lot of tools that can do that, but they're horrible. They're really bad. So I need the tool is my computer and my software, and the place is going to be a very secure server, either my remote server or a cloud-based server or even a physical location. Although I don't recommend using a physical location nowadays because of backup issues, and it's really really safe. But if your local area fails, then you're screwed. So you always need backups. But virtual is a lot easier because you can have it secure and still get to it from multiple physical locations. All right, so those are the things you always have to keep in mind when you're trying to do something, because it's never as simple as, oh, I'm just going to do this thing. Because that person that I mentioned you should not plan on it being you forever. You should be able to put somebody into that. And you can't just grab a piece of somebody and say, do this one thing sometimes. It needs to be a dedicated space. I ran into this problem when I am running into it always when I'm trying to fix trucks or fix containers, because those are really my assets for my dumpster rental business. In order to fix a truck, you have to have the person always ready. It takes time to get that person mentally ready. And so I've never been able to have a guy on staff for long term that does mechanic work. Because to get all the things is insane. You come across a problem, and the worker will say, I have the truck, I have the space, um, and I have obviously myself. And then you well, I say truck. Obviously, that's you need the truck, but I have the let's say I have the part. Let's say it's um, a part of an engine. Gosh, a gasket, head gasket. Well, now you got to take the engine apart. Well, that is serious. That's a serious tool. You need serious tools for that. You need to have a crane. It's not called a crane. It's called an engine. Engine jack, so that you can get the engine up out of the truck. And then you have to take everything apart, and that there's so many pieces that go into that. You can't do it. Like it's not worth doing that one task. It's better off outsourcing that. So then you just outsource what you can't do in-house. That's the simplest way to solve that problem until you have enough volume where it makes of that problem where it makes sense to bring it in-house. And then that's when you get all four of those things. But you need to know you're going to be using them consistently. All right. Well, I wanted you to think about that. When you're trying to solve a problem, you need four things. At least there could be more, but there's always at least four things that you need. This is Michael with Buffalo Finances. You have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.